Imagine waking up before the sun, your hands already blistered. Servants in medieval castles lived a life that revolved around the whims of their masters from dawn till dusk without respite. Each day began with cleaning, cooking, and serving, and it didn't end until well after dark. Your mornings started early at 4 or 5 a.m., when you would be called to rise by the sound of a bell. As you trudged to your duties, your body ached from scrubbing floors and washing linens by candlelight. The job was meticulous. Every surface had to be spotless, for even the smallest speck could bring a scolding from your lord or lady. By 6 a.m., you were already in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and roasting meats, all while avoiding the harsh eyes of the cooks who were known for their sharp tongues and quick fists. The morning hours passed with endless tasks, fetching water from the well, tending to animals, and preparing breakfast for the entire household. Breakfast was a hasty affair, often consisting of bread and ale if you were lucky. By 8 a.m., your day as a servant officially began in earnest. You would be responsible for serving meals, washing dishes, and maintaining the cleanliness of the Lord's quarters. By midday, you found yourself in the bustling kitchen again, where the atmosphere was thick with smoke and the constant clatter of pots and pans. The cooks were demanding and cruel. A single mistake could lead to punishment. You had to be quick on your feet, knowing that any delay meant you would face consequences, such as being whipped or sent out into the rain without a cloak. Dinner time was not just about eating. It was a spectacle where servants had to serve with grace, often standing for hours on end. The meal itself could take several hours, during which you were expected to move silently and swiftly. If food was dropped or served incorrectly, you faced immediate consequences: a slap across the face, a beating, even a swift dismissal from your post. These punishments ranged from physical abuse to social isolation, leaving scars that lasted long after the incident. Living conditions in castles were cramped and unsanitary. Your quarters were small and poorly heated, filled with drafts and pests. You shared beds in dormitories, each bed a thin mattress stuffed with hay, sometimes not enough for one person, let alone several. Illness was rampant. Common ailments like the flu or dysentery spread quickly due to overcrowding and poor hygiene. Medical care was non-existent, and many died from these simple illnesses. Socially, you had your own hierarchy within the castle walls. Lower servants did the most menial tasks, such as cleaning latrines and fetching water. These roles were grueling, and often subjected them to abuse by higher-ranking servants, or even the lord's family members. Higher-ranked servants might assist in personal grooming or participate in court activities, but they still faced constant scrutiny and could be dismissed with little notice. The line between servitude and trust was fine. Some masters relied on their trusted servants for advice and companionship. These servants often earned a measure of respect and were given more responsibility, such as managing the household accounts or even acting as messengers to neighboring castles. However, this trust came with a heavy price. One misstep could lead to ruin. Survival depended not just on physical strength, but also on cunning and loyalty. Hidden dangers lurked everywhere: poisoned food, political intrigue, and the unpredictable moods of your lords and ladies. You had to be constantly vigilant, always aware of who you could trust and who might have ulterior motives. The slightest mistake or misstep could lead to dire consequences. Yet there were hidden benefits too. You gained knowledge about the broader world, learned valuable skills such as cooking and cleaning, and sometimes even earned a place in history. For example, some servants became renowned for their culinary talents, while others were recognized for their loyalty and service. These hidden benefits provided a sense of purpose and occasionally a semblance of security. Despite the hardships, life as a castle servant was more complex than it seemed. You thrived by understanding the social dynamics, mastering daily routines, and navigating the treacherous waters of feudal society. The struggle to survive every day made you resourceful, resilient, and often, surprisingly influential behind the scenes. Your role was crucial in maintaining the household's operations and ensuring its smooth running. Servants faced challenges that were both mundane and extraordinary. Their lives were a blend of backbreaking work, hidden privileges, and the constant threat of punishment. The combination of physical labor, strategic thinking, and social maneuvering created an environment where each day brought new struggles and opportunities. For instance, you might find yourself managing a kitchen with limited resources or dealing with a master who was particularly temperamental. In one particular case, a servant named Eliza served as the lady's personal maid. Her duties were varied. She had to clean the chambers, prepare meals, and attend to her mistress's every need. One day, while fetching water from the well, she stumbled and nearly dropped a pitcher of water. Panicked, she quickly replaced it with one from her own bucket. The Lord saw this, but instead of punishing her, he praised her quick thinking and gave her a small amount of gold as a reward. This momentary recognition could have been life-changing for Eliza. Living conditions were often harsh. Servants shared common areas with their masters, such as the great hall or gardens. In the winter, these spaces were cold and drafty, while in the summer, they offered respite from the scorching heat outside. However, even in these shared spaces, servants had to be discreet. A misplaced word or an inappropriate gesture could result in punishment. Social status within the hierarchy was fluid. Lower-ranked servants often worked alongside their masters, personal staff, but they still faced constant scrutiny and potential dismissal. Higher-ranked servants, like those who managed accounts or acted as messengers, enjoyed more respect but were equally vulnerable to abuse. The dynamics between these groups were delicate. A servant might be promoted due to loyalty, but could also be demoted for missteps. Challenges of survival were numerous. One common challenge was dealing with the Lord's temperamental moods. A master who was in a bad mood might take out his frustrations on anyone nearby, often leading to harsh punishments or even dismissal. For example, if the Lord was displeased after an unsuccessful hunt, he might vent his anger by whipping several servants, regardless of their actions. Another challenge was the constant threat of political intrigue. Servants had to be careful not to become entangled in the schemes and jealousies within the household. A servant named Thomas worked as a scribe for the Lord's personal clerk. One day, he overheard a conversation about a plot against another nobleman. Though tempted to share this information, he knew that doing so would put him in grave danger. Instead, he kept silent, understanding that his survival depended on discretion. Hidden benefits were not limited to recognition and respect. Some servants found ways to improve their living conditions or gain additional privileges. For instance, a servant named Agnes worked as a cook's assistant. She noticed that the Lord frequently ate alone in his chambers, often with an unappetizing meal. Sensing an opportunity, she began preparing small, discreet meals for him. Over time, her efforts paid off. The Lord grew fond of these unexpected treats and eventually promoted her to head chef. In conclusion, life as a medieval castle servant was a daily battle between survival and servitude. The combination of backbreaking work, hidden privileges, and the constant threat of punishment made each day a struggle for existence. Servants thrived by understanding the social dynamics, mastering daily routines, and navigating the treacherous waters of feudal society. Their lives were far more complex than they appeared on the surface, offering valuable insights into the realities of feudalism and the human condition under such stark social conditions. In summary, life as a medieval castle servant was a multifaceted experience filled with both hardships and hidden benefits. Servants faced numerous challenges, but also had opportunities to gain respect, knowledge, and even influence behind closed doors. Their lives were not just about serving their masters. They played crucial roles in the household's operations and often left lasting legacies through their skills and loyalty.